Using just 2 strings, I'm going to teach you 7 easy guitar licks you can quickly learn to play fast. You'll be playing these easy and fast 2-string licks in no time. I'll teach you a special little trick that will increase your speed quickly. You'll also learn more cool little tricks to build guitar speed fast. So if you've been struggling to build some guitar speed on the guitar, this video will help you get there a little bit faster. So grab your guitar and let's go. All right, in this example, I'm going to play this 2-string pattern. And I'm going to hold out the final note, which is the same as the first note. We're going to just let it ring. And then when we repeat, we have legato on the first string. And we're picking everything on the second string. And this is a great little exercise to build up some speed, because it does a couple of things. First, when you're holding out that high note here, it gives your hands, and more importantly your brain, time to sort of reset. So you're thinking and preparing for the lick that's going to come. This is different than if we just did this in a repeating pattern like this. Okay, that's cool too, and that's a cool exercise. But here, with the example you see on the screen, when we hold this out, the last note, we're only playing in short little bursts. And those short bursts, as I said earlier, gives your brain and your hands time to sort of reset and prepare to do the next little fast burst of notes. And this will help you when you go back to just, putting them all together and just continuously doing a pattern like that on 2 strings. All right, the next example looks almost exactly like the one we just took a look at. The difference is that now we're going to shorten the time that we sustain the last note. So we've got our lick, and then this note here, we're not going to let it ring out so long. So it's just a short, brief hold. So your brain and your hands still have time to reset and think about what's coming next, but it has now less time. So the previous example where you're holding that note out longer is where to start. You want to start with that one first. When that starts to feel comfortable, then you can just shorten the time that you're holding out this last note. Okay, and that will help you to build up the speed. You're still doing a speed burst here, but the speed bursts are closer apart with less time in between. So this is a little bit more advanced because your brain has to work a little faster, but not as fast as putting it all together like this. Okay, so that's a really cool exercise. It's what I do with a lot of my students, and it helps them to build speed pretty quickly by just giving the brain and the hands just a short moment to reset. In this particular example, just 1/4 note before we hit the lick again. Now, before we go further, you'll want to make sure that your hands are really warmed up before you start playing faster and faster. And I've got a really cool video you might want to check out. It's here on YouTube. It's called Guitar Warm-Up Exercises, a step-by-step tutorial. So check out that video. It will help your hands get ready to do some more heavy-duty practicing that requires speed and dexterity. All right, this next example is simply what's called a sequence of 3. So we're playing this pattern here, but we're going to play it in a sequence or a group of 3 notes at a time. So we've got the first 3 notes we're going to play. Then we're going to start on this note and play descend 3 notes. Then we're going to start on this note and descend 3 notes. And then we start on this note and descend 3 notes. So you've heard this before. It's common in a lot of licks and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's very common. You hear it in a lot of solos and a lot of different styles. You hear it played over pentatonic scales or major minor scales or modes or whatever. It's really cool. It's a nice little exercise for the left hand and for the right hand, and synchronizing the two hands together. So it's not really difficult or hard. It's a pretty simple pattern, as all these patterns are that we're talking about. These are easy two-string licks here, but they will help you to build some coordination and dexterity between the two hands. All right, the next easy two-string lick looks very similar to the one we just did. The only difference is that now we're going to be doing a legato on the first string. So we're picking the first note, and this is all legato from that point. Then we're going to pick everything else. So it's a different feel, of course, when you're switching between legato and picking. And on one hand, you might think, well, this version of the lick is easier than the previous one because you don't have to pick all the notes. And in that sense, I suppose it is a little easier than the previous lick. However, where it gets a little tricky, if you're listening carefully when you practice it, is that you want to make sure that the transition from the legato portion and the picking portion sounds smooth. It's not choppy, or there's not a hesitation between those two sections. And the other thing is you want to make sure that the legato portion still has enough volume and attack. So you don't want this to happen. You don't want, very weak, kind of sound here. And then when you pick the notes, then you have a pretty heavy attack and louder dynamic range, and louder. You just louder. Okay, so you want. You definitely hear the difference in articulation between the legato portion where you don't hear pick attack, and then the picked portion where you do hear the pick attacking the strings, but the volume is basically the same. You're not hearing anything quiet, and then so when you practice it, just watch out for that the volume is there on the legato portion. Now, one other thing I'll say about the legato part is that if, when you do this, you're not getting a strong sound, and it just sounds really timid and wimpy on the legato portion, that would be pretty normal if you're first learning this. But what I want to caution you to not do is to not use a lot of power. Okay, so what I find with students that I've taught licks like this a million times to students around the world over the years, and one of the things, a common mistake that students often make is they'll hear that it's weak, and then they'll overcompensate by trying to really grip the guitar and force their fingers on and use a lot of downward pressure and power, thinking that that's somehow going to make the notes louder, and it's not. And even if it did, you wouldn't want to do that anyway, because it's going to create massive amounts of unnecessary tension. You'll fatigue very quickly, and your potential to play fast will just not be as high. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to move the fingers fast once the moment comes where they have to move. Okay, so that's not the same thing as saying just play the lick as fast as you can. That's not the same. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that when you take a look at this first two notes, okay, when we do the pull-off, that movement of this finger coming off has to be quick, okay? I'm not saying do this. I'm not saying that you play the two notes close together. I'm not saying quick in that sense. I don't mean that. I mean that when the brain tells the finger, okay, do the pull-off now, that motion has to be quick. Okay? Just like if you would snap your finger. Okay? If you tried to snap your finger using a lot of power but slow, you're not really going to get a sound. Okay? So you don't need a lot of power. You don't need a lot of power at all, but you do need to be quick to snap the fingers to get the sound. Right? To get that sound, the finger has to move fast. It doesn't have to use a lot of power. The same thing is true with hammer-ons and pull-offs, okay? So when you're doing this, just think of this finger just like doing the snap, okay? Same thing here between these two notes. You don't want to do this. You don't want to move it in a slow way. So I'm using very, very, very little power. It's very light touch, but the finger moves pretty quick, enough to make the note loud. So that's sort of the secret trick there to getting hammer-ons and pull-offs to sound loud and to build speed without getting tired and fatigued and having it just be quiet. So far, all of these two-string easy guitar licks here have been really just guitar speed bursts is what they are. I've got another video that goes into much more detail on what guitar speed bursts are and how to build your guitar speed using them. You might want to check out my other video on exactly that topic. All right, so we had some examples where we took our two-note pattern and we did a sequence of 3, and then we sped it up, and then we did it with legato. Now I'm going to show you a sequence of 4. You may be familiar with this lick anyway. So the sequence is this. You start on the highest note of the pattern and you go down 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you start on the second highest note of the pattern and you go down 4 notes from here. Then you go to the third highest note, this one, and you go down 4 notes from here. Okay, now if we wanted to continue that down the scale, then we would start here, etc. But what we want to do is create a repeating pattern. So we got the first 3 beats. And now to be able to start over, we're going to do these last 4 notes. And now we can start over very easily. Okay, cool. So this is a pretty easy lick actually. Once you get the hang of the sequence, and you just repeat it. It's easy to learn, it's easy to memorize, it's easy to play. And now it's just a matter of just building up the speed, that's all. One thing that will help you a little bit here to make sure that you got the right feel is if you accent the 4th note of every group. I should say the first of every 4-note pattern. Accent that one, then accent that one, then accent this one, then accent this one. Because that's where the beats are going to fall. So all I'm really doing to accent that is I'm just hitting those notes with the pick just a little bit harder, and that makes that accent happen, and it really helps you to lock in with the beat or the drums or whatever, and it sounds really cool. Let's take a look at the next example. So what we have here, this is basically just a B minor add 9 chord. Okay, so we have the notes F sharp, D, C sharp, and B. Same notes as in a B minor add 9 chord. So we've got 5, there's the flatted 3rd, there's the 2nd or the 9th, there's the root. It's a really nice sound. Very cool sound. And you can get a lot of good speed out of that lick. It's pretty easy. It's an easy 2-string lick, but it's really an arpeggio is what we're really playing here because we've got 1, 3, 5, and then 9. Now let's take a look at the next example. So this is a variation of one of the exercises we did before, and now we've replaced the C sharp note, the 9th, we've replaced it with the flatted 7th. So now we have F sharp, D, B, A, B, D, F sharp. So we have 5, there's the flatted 3rd, there's the root, there's the flatted 7th. So it's basically just a B minor 7th chord. And again, it's a pretty easy 2-string lick. It's easy to play this fast and build up the speed. It's really not hard. It's actually easier than the add 9th example I showed you previously. And it's a cool little arpeggio. You can play this anywhere over a B minor chord or other chords, but it sounds really nice over B minor 7. All right, so earlier we had our B minor with an add 9, and then we had B minor 7. So both of those were arpeggios, but we can take the same general idea and we can make it more scale-like. So if we start here on E instead of F sharp, 12th fret, then we got our C sharp, and then B. We're just going down the scale. So it's just really a pure scale fragment, just played similarly to how you would have played the 2-string arpeggios before. Okay, so it's fairly easy to build up the speed. The technique is essentially the same. The notes are a little bit different, but if you prefer more the scale sound versus the arpeggio sound, you might like this lick a little bit better. Now let's talk about how to practice these 2-string guitar licks. As I said, these are really easy in a sense. The only thing that we're trying to do is just build up the speed so we can play these licks faster. And these easy 2-string licks are pretty easy to do that with. Just, start slow, work on getting the 2 hands to be in sync, and make sure that it's, fairly clean as you build up the speed. You don't have to spend a lot of time on this every day, but if you spent, 10 minutes going through the various licks in combination with the other guitar practice you normally do, after a little while, this will start to build, the speed here will start to build up pretty quickly. If you have any questions about this video, or if you have requests for, other videos that you want me to make on other topics, just let me know in the comments below. I read all the comments, even the funny ones, okay? And I've often make new videos based upon those comments. And if you want to increase your guitar speed by 10% or more in just one day, I'll show you how in my new free e-guide titled Speed Blitz, How to Play Guitar 10% Faster in One Day. It's totally free, no strings attached. Just click on the link below to download your copy so that this time tomorrow, your guitar playing can be 10% faster.